The more men and women can understand each other, the more men and women can begin to love each other and create healthier and happier relationships with each other. A lot of the breakdowns, the failures that people experience are due to miscommunication, due to a lack of understanding or even empathizing with each other, and also an inability to not jump the gun in certain situations or jump to conclusions and then react in ways that only make things worse. So when I do these videos, I'm trying to help bring you clarity so that you can better navigate situations which end up giving you more positive results. And positive results sometimes can be it helps you be with somebody or strengthen a relationship, or sometimes positive results are it allows you to see more clearly this person ain't for you and this man needs to go. Either way, it moves you in a better direction. Now, one of the frustrating experiences women have come to me about is this situation where the man just suddenly starts to act cold, all right? Suddenly starts to be distant. This is not someone who's been like this the entire time. Someone who was present, doing what he's supposed to do, showing up, and all of a sudden, he's acting cold. And that can create a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration, a lot of hurt. And I've seen so many women in those moments go to whether it be friends, family, sometimes the internet, get bad advice in that moment, implement it, and then send the whole situation left when it could have been easily solved and resolved, okay? So I want to help you understand the reasons why a man may suddenly go cold and a little overview of what you ultimately need to do. Now listen, none of what I'm about to say means it's your fault or quote unquote your responsibility. It's simply saying, hey, here's what's possibly going on. Here are things to consider. And then here's what you can do about it to, again, get the best results for yourself, okay? So one of the reasons why men go cold that I think doesn't get talked about enough is that he's having a fear of falling too deep for you. So I have to acknowledge and admit that this is not as common with men. From my experience, I have not seen it be as common with men as I've seen it be with women. But that doesn't change the fact that it does happen with men. And I don't want you to just sit on this first point I'm making and ignore the other possibles that I'm going to list in this video. Please watch the other points being made because this may or may not apply to you. But I had to put it out there because it's a reality, and it's a reality that doesn't get considered all the time. And one of the reasons why it doesn't get considered is because a woman is told that when a man wants her, nothing will stop him to be with you or go after you. And that would be true if we weren't living in a world filled with people who have been hurt, who have unresolved traumas, who have been let down before in previous relationships. And all these things create a very jaded, fearful society on both sides. We have to understand men have feelings, and a lot of those feelings have been hurt, okay? So you have a situation sometimes where man moves on with his life, and when I say moves on the surface, but hasn't done the inner work of healing from his past, okay? Meets this amazing woman, but he was not in a place where he was ready to be emotionally vulnerable. He may not feel like he's at a place where he's ready to be the man he feels he needs to be for the type of woman he desires, or for you being that woman. And he was just dating with the mindset of, I'm just trying to have a casual situation or just companionship right now without full vulnerability, deep commitment, all these different things. He may not have even understood the idea of a connection. Let me just speak on this real quick. This is kind of a side note, side story. I was recently speaking to a man who's been married, I want to say 12 to 15 years. I can't remember the exact amount of years, but it's around 12 to 15. And he's on the verge of divorce. And he talked about how him and his wife don't have a connection. They've never had a connection. But he did not realize when he was younger and married her how important a connection is and how that plays into the health of the relationship. And he said as he's gotten older and he's come to understand these things better, it's made the disconnect that they have and have always had more clear and more difficult to deal with. Now, of course, there's more to it than just there's no connection there, but really no connection is like the foundation of where everything starts to go left from there in most cases. But either way, he was never aware of it. So for him, even if he would have met a woman when he was younger, he didn't grasp the idea of connection. And a lot of men don't grasp the idea of connection. A lot of men just view it as you find a woman that you really like, that checks off the boxes that you want to be with, and you go be with her. You find what you feel is a good woman, and you be with that woman. And they overlook that deeper connection that is necessary, okay? So now going back to the point I was making about the fear of falling too deep, here's this man, no concept of connection, hasn't healed from his past, meets this amazing woman that makes him feel in a way that he's never felt before. And it's scary. It's difficult it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes because you're like, yo, can I trust this? Am I tripping? Am I going crazy? Is this real? There's a lot that starts to run through you. Am I ready for this? Because also understand that for a man, when he meets that woman that he feels like this can be the one, a lot of men, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of men have thoughts of, okay, this now means if I embrace this, I'm done with all other women. It's a wrap. It's over at this point. And if I have not already been preparing my mind and my spirit for such a journey, I may struggle initially trying to wrap my head around that or understanding, am I really ready for that where it's done, okay? Because even when that guy has been in other relationships, if he never viewed her as the one, he never really had to look at it from that perspective, okay? And that's just one of the things that crosses his mind. But either way, he's not ready. It can freak him out. And so the acting cold suddenly is essentially a pumping of the brakes. It's like, whoa, okay, I gotta slow this down. I'm losing myself. And again, whenever I say losing myself, because men and women will feel like that when experiencing a connection. Many will. And it's because it's not that they're losing themselves. It's that the self that they tried to be, which is hiding behind this wall, their true self is being pulled out from behind it, okay? So they're losing that self, the alternate self in my eyes, but to them, this is who they've been this whole time. And I hope that's not too confusing, but it really is, me saying losing themselves is not in the way that some of you might be thinking, in the bad way that some of you might be thinking. But anyways, we won't go too deep into that. Bottom line is, it can be freaking him out. He's acting cold to pump the brakes. He doesn't know how to handle the situation. And some people, when they don't know how to handle things, shut down. And I'm going to get more into shutting down a little bit later. But shutting down is a very default mechanism for a lot of men, especially since a lot of men have not cultivated the ability of proper communication, especially when it comes to deep feelings and expressing something that you're not even sure you know how to explain. Because again, if this is the first time he's experienced a connection, this is new to him, it's like it's a hard thing to really wrap your arms around. Either way, yes, it is a possible reason why the man's acting cold. And let me say this as a caveat or disclaimer, however you want to put it. Remember the key to how I opened this video. We are not talking about men who have been emotionally unavailable from the start. We are not talking about men who have been very inconsistent or not showing up their way they're supposed to. So please do not apply this to some man who's been not doing what he's supposed to do and say, oh, his current coldness is because he's falling in love with me. No. I'm talking about the ones who were showing up, they were doing their part, and then boom, this happens. It's like, what the hell's going on? All right. So Here's another big reason, and I would say very common reason, why the man suddenly goes cold is because someone got in his head. Okay? So I've my spirit is hitting me to where I have to start with this angle of it. The internet has become a very bitter, nasty, negative place. There's a lot of advice being given from a hurt place. And they're giving it not understanding that though some of it has truth in it, it is leading men down the wrong path, and it is more damaging when involving a situation that is actually genuine. Like a lot of tips and tricks and game playing, though I don't agree with it, I do not co-sign any of those things. But in reality, do some of those things work as far as eliciting certain responses? Yes. But what I try to tell people and I try to tell men is like, listen, this might work, quote unquote, or this may get you a certain response you want when you're already dealing with a woman who's really not the one for you. But when you're dealing with someone where there's something real there, this can do way more damage than good, okay? But either way, a lot of men are hearing this advice, they're implementing it, and sometimes one of those types of advices is the whole like, don't show her too much attention. You got to fall back for a little bit. Let her call you, let her chase you, stuff like this. So you're having some men now who the whole going cold is almost like testing you. Now, again, the testing is not always being done by someone who truly is a manipulative man or a bad man, all right? Of course, there are men who are like that and they're going to test you, but it's not always by those men. You have guys who are genuinely good, genuinely interested, but genuinely misguided, okay? And so he thinks this is what he has to do to make sure he does not, going back to the whole, lose himself. And this more, I don't want to confuse y'all, so let me rephrase that. Making sure that he doesn't put himself in a position where he's getting played or he becomes the sucker, okay? Because the perception is, if for a lot of men is, you allow yourself to fall so deep into this woman, you become blinded by your love. Now, before you know it, she doesn't respect you the same. She's taking advantage of you, and you end up in a bad situation, okay? Now, again, a lot of men are not understanding it's not simply because you allowed yourself to be in love with this woman. There's other things at play, but this is what they're seeing, and this was being expressed to them through, and it's not just the internet. I started with the internet because it's the most prevalent right now. But yo, I remember growing up, you could have friends in the neighborhood, you could have family who, again, misguided, but think they're giving you good advice. Like, nah, don't call her for a few days. You know, you gotta make her miss you. You got like all kinds of nonsense. You know what I'm saying? And guys do it, and there you go. But then there's also they got in his head in the sense of like, so let's just say they feel like he's doing too much, okay? And so, or they, again, because they have their skepticism about women in general, let's say there's a woman, and let's say more specifically, I'm gonna use this example. Let's say the man's a successful man, okay? And here's this woman and everything's going great. And it's very easy for some other guy or woman, it's not just guys that's giving the bad advice here. Could be another woman. I have to say, because it hit my spirit now. Could be a woman that secretly wants him. A friend, an associate, God forbid, a family member. That's just crazy. But I'm just saying, like, I shouldn't even laugh at that. That's just nuts. But the bottom line is, sometimes you have those other women who will sabotage the situation out of jealousy. Sometimes she may not even want the man. Sometimes it's the mother, okay? Either way, putting it in his head like, oh, how you know she's not using you for your money? How do you know she's genuine? Boom, 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 boom. You know, and again, causing him to now have second thoughts and negative perceptions because he's allowed this outside noise to contaminate him mentally and emotionally. And then again, either in not knowing how to handle the situation or implementing the bad advice, he now goes cold. Okay? Or I'll save the or for a different point that I will make. But the bottom line is, yes, this happens. This happens quite often. And this is why it's so important, I think, again, I know, for us to communicate before we just jump to conclusions or just react off of things. I know that can be very difficult for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that no one wants to waste their time trying to investigate, and I don't want to use the word investigate, trying to have deeper discussions when they feel like this is going to just end in the same result. But you just don't know until you actually have the discussion. And if you cannot establish proper communication in dating, in early on in a relationship, what do you think is going to happen if you end up marrying this individual? It's not going to get better. And I can tell you firsthand, one of the number one reasons why people end up divorced is just miscommunication. Matter of fact, I had just saw a clip of Lataris Whitfield. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. He has his Dear Future Wifey podcast. You can check out his channel. And in the clip, he's interviewed tons of married couples, singles, whatever. And I think the question was like, what's the number one issue that you've seen? And he was like, it's miscommunication. It's people not feeling like they can talk about things genuinely, what's bothering them, what they want, what they need, what's missing, all these things. And we've got to learn to stop doing that. So all that to say, like, somebody getting in his head, bad advice, could be why he's going cold, but this is why you got to be willing to talk and discuss and ask what's going on rather than just jump to any conclusions. Because something like that, bad advice, that's a fixable issue. All right, so let's keep this thing going. And piggybacking off the whole issue of miscommunication, another big reason why he suddenly goes cold is that something you did upset him. Okay? So you have a lot of situations where, I say this with love, okay? You know I love y'all. I'm sorry I laugh because I already know some of y'all gonna get just a little defensive maybe, but listen, a lot of women, may or may not be you, okay, don't realize some of the unhealthy things they do or engage in their relationships. Whether that be how they talk to a man, whether that be something that might be disrespectful in the moment that she doesn't understand or perceive as disrespectful, whether it be dismissing of his feelings because she is so focused on her feelings. She does not realize and process that she's dismissing his, right? And just other toxic behaviors that she may not be aware or taking ownership of, okay? And if this man has ever expressed any issues or concerns before, and all he gets back from you is deflection, excuses, you then finding a way to point the finger at him, things of that nature, he will stop addressing it. He will stop speaking on it. Now, here's the unfortunate reality, because we could say, all right, if I'm talking to that man, I'm going to say, listen, if you can't talk to that woman and tell her what's going on without her taking issue with it and embracing it and respecting it, you shouldn't be trying to be in a relationship with her. But the unfortunate reality is that men see those issues as pretty much a woman thing, okay? They don't view it as, oh, okay, it's just a her thing, and if I go to the next woman, I'll be fine and I won't have to deal with this. No, you're going to have to, in their mind, you're going to have to deal with this no matter what, pretty much. So you know what? If there's enough other stuff that I like about her or value about her, I'm still going to stick around and just sweep this under the rug. However, sweeping it under the rug, depending on what happened in that moment, can lead to him having cold moments, all right? So let's just say You did something that he felt was disrespectful. But again, instead of addressing it because he feels like addressing it with you is pointless, he doesn't say anything. But some men don't know how to not show their feelings or wear it on their sleeve, so to speak. I believe that's the way the saying goes. But, not be kind of obvious with it. So their attitude changes, their energy changes. And you as a woman, because you are more in tune, you're picking up on this difference. You're picking up on now he's all extra silent. Now he's in a different mood. Now he's cold. And for him, his goal is just to get through the moment, get through the day, and tomorrow try to act like it never happened. Okay? But for you, you know something, you sense something's wrong, you sense he's cold, and you're like, what the hell is wrong with you? But he's just, and if you ask him, he's like, oh, no, I'm good, I'm all right. But he's not all right. He's not all right. And so this is an example of why it's important to establish early on in any relationship, one, the freedom and the safe space to express concerns from both sides, okay? To give constructive criticism, and to learn how to hear and embrace what your partner is saying. Because again, if someone feels like, and for some of you women, you should be able to relate to this because some of you have found yourself in the same scenario where you have a man or have had a man where you felt like whenever I say something, he doesn't acknowledge it or he dismisses me or whatever. And you have your other reasons why you're not prepared to walk away. Again, a lot of times it's because a woman may just view this as, all right, well, I'm gonna have to deal with this with the next man, so let me just stay here rather than starting all over. That's just one of the mindsets, okay? And one of the reasons why women may not walk away from that. But either way, you're still there and you're just at a place where you feel like it's pointless to say when something is bothering you. But it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy when either of you do it, all right? And so if it hasn't already been established, the whole being able to talk and express these things, or you can sit back right now and honestly say, you know what, there have been times where I dismissed this man's feelings or didn't take any accountability for the part I may have played or what I may have done in the situation. If you want him to stop having these cold moments and to fix this issue, you got to be able to come to him and acknowledge now, I understand that in the past, I behaved in this way. I didn't handle things appropriately, but I don't want us to have these moments anymore. I want you to know you can feel free to talk to me. And when he does, if he does now stop being cold and tell you what's up, you can't just react to that and give him a backlash because you're going to shut him back down. All right? So you got to really be open-minded, really be ready to receive whatever it is that he has to say. But yes, it's important that those lines of communication are opened up, and that will help us avoid future moments of just going cold. All right, now before we get on to the next point, be sure to check out my shop, StephanSpeakShop.com, where you can get tickets to my latest tour with Dr. Bobby Price, all right? Or you can get one of my books or coaching services, you name it, it's all at StephanSpeakShop.com. But if you do want to go specifically for the tour event, you can go for timeforachange.tour.com, all right? Now let's move it along. And so here's another reason why men suddenly go cold, and that's because he is stressed, overwhelmed, and has shut down. So I mentioned it earlier. Let's dive deeper into it right now. And I have to say this about myself. Though I am good at or willing to communicate when necessary. And if I'm in a relationship, I'm definitely not just gonna shut down, go cold, go ghost out of nowhere. However, I know that in general life, so outside of a relationship, when I get too overwhelmed and stressed, I just want to shut down from everything. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to deal with anything. I just want to go in my corner. It's just me and God and work through it. You know what I'm saying? And so I say that to just lay down the foundation of understanding that, yes, it is a mechanism for a lot of people when too much is going on in their life to just shut down. Now, is that the way to be when you are in a relationship? No, no. And if I'm speaking to men, or when I speak to men, I would say, listen, at the very least, you got to let your partner know, I'm going through it right now. I just need a little time to myself. Give me a moment to process this. Give some kind of heads up to your partner, so at least it doesn't just catch them off guard and lead them to having to wonder what the hell's going on, okay? But there's a lot of men who have not been taught or do not understand how to properly handle those moments, okay? Not to make an excuse, again, not to make it okay. However, it happens. I'm just explaining to you what happens, that coldness, because, and one of the reasons why I'm breaking these things down and I'm making this video is because one of the common reasons that a woman is gonna jump to, or assumptions that she's gonna make as to why he suddenly went cold, is he got another woman. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't put that on the list. Could it be on the list? Is it a possibility? Absolutely, absolutely. But the problem is when you jump to that conclusion, you miss all the other possible steps or possible scenarios that are potentially fixable and will not put you in a mindset that can now sabotage the relationship. Because if you go straight to, oh, he must have another woman, now that just sets off a chain reaction of other possible negative reactions, thoughts, and things that you may do that will make matters worse unnecessarily, okay? So, getting back to the whole overwhelmed and stressed, yes, a lot of guys, that's their thing. And one of the reasons why a lot of men shut down and go in their own corner, because for you as a woman, you may feel like, well, listen, if I'm his woman or I'm the woman he's dating and he's saying he's serious about me, why wouldn't he want to share this moment with me? Why wouldn't he want to go through this with me, so to speak? But for that man, the concern may be, I'm not trying to look weak in front of you right now. If I'm struggling with this and I don't know how to handle it, or I find myself in a weak place, it can be difficult to face you when in that moment. Also, because a lot of men, when they allow themselves to be vulnerable in the weak moments, and I don't even like using the word vulnerable, but allow them to expose exactly everything that was going on with them when those things hit their life. For some men, and I acknowledge it because there's a lot of other reasons why it didn't go the way they hoped, but it led to them losing the respect of the woman. It led to the dynamics of the relationship shifting. So a lot of men are hesitant in showing themselves to that partner in that weak moment. It's different. It's like, let me come back to her when I figured out what I'm trying to do here. All right. So when I'm presenting this to her, I'm presenting it as a man who is on top of things, not as a man who's lost in the moment and doesn't know what the hell to do with myself. Okay. So again, I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I'm explaining to you that's the way it is for a lot of guys and why they do that. And that's why when they do shut down, it's not personal towards you. It is not, I don't love you enough to want to talk to you. Sometimes it's, I love you so much, I don't want to take the chance of this negatively impacting our relationship. Or I don't want to shift the stress of this burden onto you. I don't want to invite you in my mess right now. Let me try to work this out and then come back to you. Again, not saying that's the way it should be, but that's how the man feels, okay? So it's important that when you, especially if you sense there's a possibility of things getting the best of him right now and why he's gone cold, do not then turn around and try to make this all about you. Meaning, oh, well, like you're making me feel like this way, or I'm not loved, or you don't value me. It's like, no, so because now you're adding more stress to the man. Now you're making matters worse. Rather than just saying, no, let me take a step back. If anything, he needs my support in this moment. He needs my understanding and patience. But yes, if he shuts down in this moment, once we get through this, we do need to discuss that going forward, this can't be how this is handled. All right? Shutting down is not the way to go. We've got to figure out how to better handle this together, how to navigate these situations to where we can grow stronger together and not take the chances of this causing unnecessary problems. All right, so here is something that I feel like I need to put on here. And it's a, let me just get to it. The last reason for today that I'm going to mention, and there's a lot of other things for us to discuss, so I'm probably going to make a part 2 to this video. But another reason why the man suddenly acts cold is because he's giving you a reason to leave him. So here's what I mean. Sometimes you have situations where the man was interested, and because he was genuinely interested, he was showing up, he was doing his part, all these things. But somewhere along the line, he realized or started to feel that this isn't really it. Okay? Now, whether that be another woman has come into the picture, whether that be he just feels like, as much as I like her, we're just not there on the same page, or we're not really for each other, or like I can enjoy her, but I just don't see her as the one, all these things. And I don't want to waste her or my time continuing with this. But unfortunately, some men, a lot of men, don't know how to just be honest or articulate that in the moment. And what makes it harder to articulate is when you haven't technically done anything wrong. Like, I know some of y'all have been in a situation as women where you could be dating a guy, you liked him, you had genuine interest, but you got to a point where you realize, this ain't really it. You're not really feeling it like that, or you gave it a chance and it just didn't get you to that place where you want to be to feel like you want to move forward with somebody, and you now struggle to let go because he's a good guy. He hasn't done anything wrong. So it's like some muster up the strength to just say, you know what, this just isn't working for me. It's just not there. But a lot of people, their way of then handling it is going cold, going ghost, creating distance. Okay? Now, how you will know better if this is a man who maybe just wants you to let go of him, right? And he's trying to avoid having to say it straight up, is if you address his coldness, okay, and he's not correcting it, and he's not giving you any reassurance of, no, we're good, boom, 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 then it's pretty safe to assume he's looking for a way out. Because if he wasn't, he would try to find some way to calm your concerns. He would make some changes, at least initially. Well, not at least initially. He would make it in general and try to, again, make you more comfortable with him again. But if he's not making any efforts to improve on his all of a sudden distance and coldness, he's probably looking for a way out. And giving you a reason to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with him. And for a lot of people, like, that's easier. They'd rather you leave them than them having to tell you, I don't want to do this anymore. Now, again, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you what it is. So it is something that happens. It is something you have to be mindful of. And I feel the need to tell you this. If you're faced with a situation like this, and you see that he's not making any adjustments, but there's that part of you that, because you're still hoping for something to work out, you're kind of in denial of what's being shown to you over and over again. You got to really take a step back and ask yourself, do I really belong here? Is this really the man for you? Like, forget, and to be honest with you, cold or not cold, you got to make sure you talk to God about, is this the guy for you? Because whether he's doing great things or not doing great things, and whatever the underlying reasons are, at the end of the day, what matters most is this even a guy that God wants you to be dealing with? Because if not, you just got to let him go regardless. And having that extra layer of understanding that this is or isn't the guy for you will give you more strength into doing what you need to do and moving in the right direction. So make sure you go to God, include Him in the process, and allow yourself to receive or experience the man who is truly best for you. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on why God isn't removing your feelings for that man. For various reasons, we just like, listen, Lord, take these feelings away. And we pray and we pray and we pray, and they're still there. And it can be a struggle.